enjoy it.
Thank you, Mustansir. I would now introduce you to our speaker for today, Mrs. Habiba Kudrati. She's a counseling psychologist with an experience of over a decade and a passion for motivating people and helping them make decisions. She has to her credit a master's in developmental and career counseling and a postgraduate diploma in school counseling, along with a long list of many more international accreditation. She is basically a relationship consultant with an expertise in counseling and training programs. She's a certified sex educator and a career guidance and counseling expert. She has a successful private counseling practice in Mumbai, working with children, teenagers, and adults. We are very, very grateful to her for making time out of her busy schedule today and addressing us. I'm sure at the end of this session, we are all going to have a completely different perspective to parenting. Over to Habiba Kudrati. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rashida. Thank you so much. And thank you for calling me out here and getting me to address such wonderful people who are looking forward for effective parenting. So you would want me to start, or do you want to wait in for some time for people to join in, or is this the group that we have?
I I'm not sure. Should we wait for a moment more? We have
I
many more on the WhatsApp group though. I will post a reminder again. Okay, we can start, Abiba, when people will join.
Okay, so the audience, is it going to be that all the audience are going to be without the video, or are they going to be on video mode? Because I would like to see my audience. I feel I'm talking to the screen, and when I talk to the screen, I am very bad at talking at screens, guys. So is it okay for all of you all to at least make me understand that, okay, so if you all are not comfortable in switching on your videos, I would also just request that let's use the chat box, because I do not believe in the lecturing mode. I'm not here to tell you all the do's and don'ts of parenting. That's Google has enough information for that. You don't need me for that. So I would like you all to participate in the chat box and tell me that what are your expectations? What are you looking out? Are there any questions that you all have in mind about parenting? Is there any confusion that you feel that you have that you would like me to address? Or else I'm going to give you the gyan that I have, and then you'll have to listen to that, and then just take it the way it is. So if it is going to be we are going to be interactive with each other, we are going to benefit much more than me just giving you the jargon on parenting. I can go on for hours giving you all jargon on parenting, trust me, but it's not going to be fun. So I'm just going to give you all some time for you all to gather your thoughts and what are you all expecting? What do you all want from me in today? Because parenting is not only a small topic that can be covered up in an hour. You can take out years and years, and we can keep on talking about parenting because we never cease to be parents. Whether we have a 1-year-old kid or whether we have a 30-year-old adult, we yet will be continuing to be parents, and every day our role changes of being a parent. So of course I believe there is a mixed crowd out here, and each one of you all will have different challenges because the age group of the children are going to be different. So If there are any questions, let's shoot your expectations to me. Else, I'll begin my bit of the story then with you all. So, okay. Okay, so I have some responses. Great. So I think so. People want me to talk about the important things to manage kids, how to manage children without being strict. Okay. Okay. Superb. So let's begin the whole concept about parenting. So what is parenting? Parenting is a concept which we thought that it is something which we don't need to learn because we are just inherently we can become parents, right? It's like about, okay, fine, I can just anyhow just start being a parent. But before we do that, and before we try to be parents today, I would first all of you all to show gratitude that at least you all are parents. You will have children to be called who call you parents. There are so many who are not blessed with that zone, and they are so deprived of it, right? So what I'm going to do is, Rashida, I'm going to be sharing the screen with my presentation because that will just get it a little more easier. Okay, first and foremost, how does parenting influence the molding of your child's personality? That's my first thing before I even get on to how do you discipline. What is effective parenting? First and foremost, when I say parenting, let's get one thing absolutely clear when I say parenting, that parenting is the role of the mother and the father. That is why we use the term parenting. We do not use it as mothering and fathering. So when I say parenting, I mean I get both the parents involved in the process of parenting. Now, what happens with your influence into your child's personality? Okay. What I'm trying to say here is that the first 7 years of your child, I have one father who's raising. Thank you so much for being a part of this parenting workshop. All the fathers who have taken out time today and are here today, I really appreciate that you believe that you have a role to play in your child's development, in your child's upbringing. It's not only the mother's role to play the role of the parent. So I'm really glad that you've been there. Okay, so I basically, psychology has this wonderful way of explaining to us the importance of your child's personality, your child's upbringing. So what happens is that, suppose if we all had, if I had given you right now, okay, a clay to play with, okay, a soft clay to play with. Just imagine, since we are here and I'm not there in present, or else I would have given you all some nice clay to play with. If I'd given you some clay to play with, and would have told you that let's make a figure out of that clay, okay, you would have made the figure. Somebody would have come and told you that, hey, listen, you know what, this figure is not so great, can you just change it a little bit? Do you think y'all could change it? If I had asked you to change it, do you all think you all could change the figure? Can we respond in the chat so we know that yes, you all are understanding what I'm trying to say? Okay, so what happens is that we can mold and we can change. Now just imagine that you've left this clay untouched, unattended for 5-6 days. Okay, it's just left in a corner and it's left unattended. Now when I see it and I tell you that, listen, can you just change the shape of this clay? What will happen if you try to change the shape of the clay? What's going to happen? Difficult? Or is it going to be, you'll break it will break. Yes, thank you. I was looking out for that. It will break. Now what happens is that your child's personality is developed from the age 0 to 7 years. Your child is like soft clay from 0 to 7 years. Now, after that, when you try to change anything, there it breaks. And anything that breaks, it hurts. And anything that hurts makes noise. So you see that the tantrums of children begin later years of the age. They don't begin in the earlier years. Earlier years, you very reluctantly, very nicely, very passionately surrender to your child. Even if he's throwing a tantrum, you will coax him, you will mold him, you will be with him, but you will not want to discipline him at that point of time. Yes, and that's where the mistake, initial years of mistake begins, that we are not firm with a decision. Somebody in the chat said that, I want to raise my children, do effective parenting without being strict. I don't believe in the word strict. There is no word like being strict. It's just being assertive. So what happens is, I'll tell you one common mistake we make as parents. When a child, when the child is small and the child tells us that, I want a chocolate. Okay. Now, when the child says, I want a chocolate, it's very easy, right? It's very easy at that point of time to tell your child, okay, fine, take the chocolate. If it was in your capacity, you could have given that child the chocolate. But our initial response is, no, we are not having chocolate right now. We are not having chocolate. Fine. You gave that decision. I respect that decision. Now the child is coming after you. Please, mama, please, papa, give me that chocolate. No, I want to eat that chocolate. No, you're not having that chocolate. Again, he will come after 2 minutes. Again, he will go on irritating you. And then what do we do? Surrender. Okay, go eat this chocolate, but I'm only giving it to you today. Tomorrow, if you ask, I won't give it. What have you taught your child? That you try to coax me, you try to butter me, you try to go around me, and I will surrender. I will give it to you. Now he's learned this, she's learned this, and she goes on implementing it because she knows that I can manipulate my parents. So first and foremost, who's taught them how to be stubborn? Did they come out from your womb being stubborn? No. We have made them stubborn. We have taught them that this is how you can get things done. That is one of the aspects. And the other aspect is when the mother and father are not on the same page. So you will say no, and then the child will go to the father, and the father has no patience level, and he will say yes. Or the father has said no, and the mother says, listen, I have enough to tackle. I don't want one more stress on my head. Okay, go do whatever you want. Right? So there is no coordination between the parents, and that's where the basic level of disciplining starts getting disrupted. Right? So we are looking at things which we are only doing, and then we are like, that soft clay example that I gave you, we have molded them. Now when it's not turned out the way we wanted it to turn out, and now you are trying to change it, it's not getting changed because we have made it that way. So if you do not like your child's particular trait or pattern, then there's nobody to blame but yourself. And the moment you take onus that, yes, it's my mistake, I need to rectify it, you will stop blaming the child for everything that he or she does. Right? So that is one aspect when I say that so this is one thing that I would insist parents to tell me, to agree upon, is that if you can give your child, do not say no. Do not say no if you can say a yes. Because then your child will understand that now when my parent has said a no, that means it's a no, and I cannot go and negotiate with it. And this is not only theory from books that I'm telling you guys. I'm telling you this out of my own experience. Like I have two kids, I can't call them kids anymore. So they are grown-ups. Okay, I have a 22-year-old daughter, I have an 16-year-old son. And I'm telling you out of my sheer experience that it is, they know that, that if I have said a no, they will never come back to me and tell me, Mama, please, because they know that when she said a no, it's a no. It's not going to turn a yes, because if it was a yes, she would have never said a no. And this comes because of my consistency of being that way. You know what happens is that now today you all will hear this workshop, okay? And you all will all be charged up and motivated for 2 days, okay? And 2 days you all will be wonderful. You will be like those most rational parents in the world. And on the third day, slip. You go back to your own trait. And the child is confused and saying, hello, what happened? Oh, you can't trust. You can't trust them. Yeah, it's okay. One of their mood swings, I guess. So we have to be very consistent. Anything that you want to change will happen only with consistency. So that is one thing which I implement, and which I feel that is the most important tool of parenting, is that be transparent with your children. You don't have to overdo things. You don't have to underdo things. It's the way you want to look at it. Okay. The second mistake that, and these mistakes I'm telling you because these are mistakes which I have made. So I look at personal experience only, How many of you over here, okay, and I really wish you all answer this in your chats. How many of you all want to be your child's friend? Okay, I only have one me. So others don't want to be their child friend. Okay, so basically all parents start believing that they want to be their child's friend. Very good. I know, Rashida, why you're saying this. Okay, so let's not get there. Now you're giving me very rational answers. She's saying this because she's come for my workshop. Now that is why she's saying it. It's okay. So let's get one thing now, that we can't be a child's friend. And I will tell you this with a very simple example. Okay, my own example. So, and this especially happens with parents whose children have crossed 12 years, okay, 12 to 13 years. And then we are getting onto the point that, okay, fine, I want to be my child's friend. Okay, and I will tell you what is the subconscious reason for being the child's friend. So I also, as my daughter turned 12, and one day we were sitting and I said, you know what, we can be friends, like, you can tell me things, and, we can just be like cool buddies. We really don't need to have the mother-daughter thing, and, we'll be friends. And she said, okay, fine, cool, let's be friends. So I said, okay, great. Okay, mission achieved, without any more of my pains that had to go, and without coaxing, I was very happy. Well, after a few days, we happened to get into an argument, and it turned out to be a little more heated argument. And the heated argument went so much that it started exchanging in the pitch rising, in using inappropriate words. And I just snapped at her and I said, hey, listen, you don't talk to me like this. And she turned back and she said, I talk to my friends just like this. You decide what you want. So we want to very conveniently switch roles from being a parent to being a friend. We don't want to be their friend because of any other reason. We want to be their friend because we want information from them. We want to know what's happening in their lives. We want to know which girl has exited, which girl has entered, which guy is exiting, which guy is entering, what are they up to, what are the dirty talks they're doing. We want to know all that. We don't want to be their friends. And ideally, we cannot be their friends. Each one of us have come here to play a role. You've come to play the role of a parent. Please stay to that role. You can be the world's best mom. You can be the world's cool mom. But you can't be their friend, because what you share with your friends, I'm sure we all have friends, right? And we all share some different thing with our friends. What you share with your friends, you might never share it with your spouse also. Isn't it? Do not merge relationships, because then you're confusing the child. You're telling the child, okay, fine, you're saying we will want to be this, and then we want to be this, and then there is a constant confusion about what it is. So this is another thing which generally parents make a mistake, especially with teenage kids. Now, addressing to more of the problems, and understanding that there are two components of parenting, two components which build up the parenting style. Okay. What are these two components? What do you think are the two requirements to be a parent? Rashida, please don't answer. Two components to be parents. Anybody who knows that? Anybody who wants to make guesses? No? Love and understanding. Okay. Anybody else? Being diplomatic and responsible. Okay. Truth and trust. Support. Okay. Good support. There are two components of. Okay, Rashida, now you can answer. Unmute yourself and answer. Let me see whether you remember. Your testing time.
I remember the last one, not this one.
Wow. Okay. Chalo. There are two components. One is warmth and one is control. It is a blend of these two that parenting is holding its base on, its foundation on. And we go on fluctuating between warmth and control. Yes? So we all know that there are various parenting styles. Okay? And I'm not going to get on to the various parenting styles because that anybody can answer. I'm just trying to tell you that what happens when a child is born. Okay, I'll show you how we move from warmth to control. So when a child is just born, the child is showered with love. You go and hug the child, you kiss the child, you cuddle the child. Everybody is going and kissing and cuddling the child. Okay, there is ample amount of warmth around the child. Is this warmth conditional or is it unconditional? What do you think it is? Conditional or unconditional? This warmth is unconditional. The child doesn't have to do anything to get your love. The child will just be playing, then also you will go and kiss that child without any reason, just because you feel like kissing that child, right? And everybody around you also, the same thing happens. Now, once the child starts growing big, okay, this warmth starts becoming either conditional or a ritual. Okay, now understand what are these two terms. Okay, conditional means that if your child has done something well, you will pat your child, you'll go hug your child, you'll say, wow, I'm so proud of you, my boy, my girl, right? Conditional. Just like that, you will not do anything. Just like that, if the child is sitting and watching television, you will snap at that child. But otherwise, if it was a small baby, you would have gone and kissed that child or put that child on your lap, right? So then the warmth becomes conditional and control starts developing because we feel that we need to now discipline our child. So it is fair enough. We have to discipline our child, okay? So the control starts increasing, warmth starts reducing. What we are trying to say that at a point of time, we need to balance warmth and control. Now, when I say this, now sometimes, one of my workshops, I said, that we need to balance warmth and control. So there was this amazing parent who told me that, yeah, we do that only. We absolutely balance warmth and control. I am giving all the warmth and my husband is all the control. Okay. So then now we are bifurcating responsibilities, roles. And with that, I'm going to give you all a very interesting, episode which happened, and not it's because in one of my counseling processes, I was talking with a 13-year-old kid. And, very seamlessly, he told me that, what, I feel I'm trapped. I said, okay, what makes you feel that you're trapped? He's saying, no, I think I'm living in a jail. I said, okay. And why do you say that? So I said that, he said that, I just feel that my parents are cops and I'm in a jail. And you know what? One of them is a good cop and one of them is a bad cop. And cops, and because they are cops and I live in that house, that means that house is a jail and they are cops. It's such a small term which probably the parents had used, that okay, fine, we generally use, oh, I'm the good cop, you're the bad cop. And the influence and those words, what does it mean to the child, we really don't know. So the point over here is that we are not bifurcating roles and responsibilities while you're parenting, right? It's not about the warmth coming down and the control rising. It is a balance of both. When warmth and control are balanced, we are going to find an ideal situation for the child. And the child is going to be able to respond. And that's so, okay, I'm going to answer that, Rashida. Very soon I'm going to answer that. Especially the warmth and control element is very important. And we have to, as I said, since we have to learn how to balance it. Now what happens is that as our children move to the adolescence phase, when they become teenagers, okay, that's when I find that we invariably, okay, parents, we invariably start taking up the responsibility that, okay, I have a challenge in front of me. My child is now a teenager and I will have to take control. You know, so it's not that once your child becomes a teenager, your antennas are up and saying, oh, come on, it's like wartime now. We better be vigilant about what's happening in their lives, because major differences are going to change right now. And that's where we again start wanting to control. I'm going to touch base upon on very small things at this point of time, because we are not having a 3-hour workshop where I can talk to you all in detail about it. So I'm going to touch upon the adolescence phase. How many of you all over here have adolescent kids, age 13 to 18? How many of you all? If you all could just raise your hands also, it would be good enough. So I know that how many percentage of audience I am doing this, addressing to the adolescent phase. Okay. Okay, so what is the adolescent phase? The adolescent phase is a transition from being a child to being an adult. So what happens is that the body is transforming from being a child to being an adult over a span of 7 years, okay, from the age of 13 to 19. So basically what happens is that your child is no more a child and is not an adult, is somewhere in between. And they are going through a series of hormonal changes within their body to adapt to the adulthood. So you will generally sometimes find your child that he wants to be sometimes like a kid, and then sometimes he wants to take decisions like an adult. And at that point of time, as like any adult, you don't want to be controlled, you don't want to be told. Even they don't want to be controlled, and even they don't want to be told. So generally you will find your teenager saying that stop controlling me, right? Now, what is the trick over here? How are you going to deal with your adolescence is a very simple thing. That from the telling mode, you should come to the asking mode. I repeat, from the telling mode, you should come to the asking mode. So you tell them, listen, you will have to finish your homework today. It's not happening. Clearly, it's not happening. But if you ask them that, what do you think, till when you think you can complete this work of yours? Then probably you will get an answer, and probably they will do it also. Right? You know, I come across many parents who tell me, you know, that we give them a lot of choices. It's not that I am suffocating my child, you know, I am giving a lot of choices to my child. And I said, okay, fine. And how do we give choices? So we give choices like this, you know, that, so suppose, for example, they want to buy a mobile, for example, okay? And they say that I want to buy an iPhone. And now you say that, okay, fine, I can't buy this boy an iPhone, okay? So then we tell them, Acha, listen, you know what? Why don't you check this Samsung phone out also? And then the iPhone is also there. I'm giving you a choice. You choose any one of them, okay? Now, deep inside, you don't want him to buy an iPhone. You want him to buy the Samsung only, but you have left with no choice but to give them an option of that iPhone also. But you will coax him till he does not say, okay, get me the Samsung phone. I don't want an iPhone. So there is no choice that we are actually giving. What is a choice? A choice means that if he chooses the other part also, it's fine, right? It's not only about, okay, I am giving you a choice for the namesake of choice. You know, it's like this, you know, for all the ladies out here, you know, if you on Sunday, you ask your husband, you want me to cook something or you will call food from outside? Is it really that we are giving him a choice? No, we want him to say that only. And if he by mistake says, no, you cook at home, and then you have to see the tantrum that you will create. Because that two options were never options for you. You just wanted to test him that does he even care that he will tell you, okay, don't cook on a Sunday, we'll call food from outside. Similarly, we do it with our children day in and day out. The only thing is that poor our child, even if he retaliates, he will get one tight and he will be kept quiet, which you can't do it with your husband. So that's how it is, you know. So, you know, basically, the element of understanding your adolescence is very important. You know, especially if you have boys. If you have boys as adolescent children, you know, their hormonal changes are not very visible. Okay. So hormonal changes result into mood swings, result into anger tantrums. Okay. These are some of the basic mood swings that happen due to hormonal changes. Now with a girl, now it's visible. So it's understood, okay, she's going through mood swings. Just now, let's not touch her. Let's leave her alone. But when the boy shows mood swings, na, you feel he is getting out of control. Haath se nikli gayo chokro. And if I don't take charge of him right now, that means he's gone away from me forever. That's the difference we need to understand. No, that boys, if they, you know, if suppose you see your son crying, okay, without any reason, you see him crying, you know, what are the 10,000 thoughts that will come in your mind? What happened? Somebody told him anything? A girl ditched him? He's in fall in love with some girl and she doesn't want to reciprocate. There can be so many random thoughts. Okay. Now, Emma, if that boy gets up and goes into the room and locks the room, finish. Your panic attack has already started. Isn't it? So over here again, let's you know, I want to explain it in a little better way to you, that suppose if your child gets hurt, okay, and you see your child has cut his hand and there is blood oozing out, what is the first thing that you would want to do? The first thing that you instinctive thing will be that I go clean the wound, I put some cream on it, I see whether the doctor is required or not, and I will band-aid it, right? Or is the first thing we are going to say, Are tane lagu ke bhi ritsi, how did you get hurt? Is that going to be our first question? No. But when our child is emotionally hurt and is not talking or is crying, our first, what has happened to you? Can I know what has happened to you? Is it important? Is it so important to ask them what has happened? Instead of that, just saying that, is there something that I can do for you? If you need me, I'm just around the corner. You need your space, you can have your space. It's okay to give that space. What happens when we are upset and when we are angry? What do we like doing? We like talking to our best friend, or then we like just sitting and sulking alone? Do we like somebody coming and probing us again and again? We don't like it. So every time when you feel that you're caught into a situation with your child, you have to also see that, how would I feel if I was in their place? That's where the compassion element comes into place. Or else we are just going to go round and round and round the clock. You know? So these are the ways you're going to be able to handle your teenager, by giving them their space, by giving them their freedom. And again, when I say freedom, that doesn't mean that you just pull your hands up and say, okay, all warmth, no control. No, we are not saying that. We are saying that we will have to learn how to balance both of them, because that is very important, you know. And we don't want to feel suffocated as parents, and neither we want them to feel suffocated as parents. So therefore, we have to constantly keep those things in mind. Does everybody, can I make you all do one small, quick exercise out here right now? Is it possible? Rashida, you think I can do that? Because none of them have their videos on, so I really don't know where are they in the middle of something, But if everybody
Why
can
not?
just grab a paper and pen, in just a paper and pen, it would be great. Quickly, if you could just grab a paper and pen. I'll give everybody a minute to grab a paper and pen. Okay, if all of y'all have got a paper and pen in front of you, I would request all of y'all, please draw for me a house. Okay. Okay, great. So I'm going to just show you all something. I'm sure all of you all have drawn a house, something similar to this, or probably a little more addition to this. Okay. Now tell me, all of you all, how many of you all actually live in houses like this? No. We live in buildings, in flats. But yet we'll draw a countryside house with triangles and squares and 2 windows and 1 door and 1 chimney. And if somebody has been more creative, they would have drawn a tree, 2 those V-side birds, clouds, and a lake. Yes. Invariably, if I wake you up from your sleep also, now that draw for me a house, you will draw this only. This is our conventional way of thinking. We are yet stuck that a house is like that, though we have never lived in those houses. Yes. Similarly, we feel that the way we were brought up, we can bring up our children also like that. The conventional way of parenting, the traditional way of parenting. Parenting doesn't have to be learned. Parenting has just come. We have learned it we've seen it from our parents. We have done it with our children. But is it the same? Are our children the same like we were when we were kids? Is their exposure the same? Are the challenges the same? But yet we stick with the traditional way of parenting. And that's where the change has to begin with. That's where we have to learn how to first unlearn and then learn new things. So, whenever I have parenting workshops, I have people very resistance about coming for a parenting workshop, because, they say, "Arey, what parenting? Now we know how to parent our children. What's the big thing? Arey, we have grown up children. Parenting is only for 3 years or 4 years old parents. They're not for big kids." But when I yet feel sometimes I lose out of track on how to deal with my children also sometimes. Because the challenge is, now you tell me, during this COVID time, okay, this COVID time, we all have been at home, right? And we are finding so many challenges while we are at home because our children are constantly with us. We don't know how to deal with the situation wherein their screen time has increased to 16 hours per day. We were running away from that screen time for giving them at least 2 hours of screen time. Now there's screen time during school, screen time during tuitions, and in between they want their pleasure screen time. So that's also screen time. Do we have the ability to deal with this? Do we understand that if we are going through stress and emotional turmoil because of COVID, don't you think even they are going through some emotional turmoil during this time? For them, even hasn't their life also shaken up? For them, there has been no routine. They are missing out their friends. They're missing out every other aspect. They're missing out going and talking to somebody. So for us, what are they going through? No, even they are going through things. Right? And that is the difference. So basically for us, parenting can be summed up in a form of a story. I love saying stories, so you're going to get to hear one story from me. And that will show you all that what exactly I mean when I say parenting, and I mean warmth and control. Okay, so this is a story about 2 neighbors, and one of them was they both had plants in their balcony. Now, one of the ladies, she was very cautious about her plant, so she used to see to it that she would water it every single day. She would change the manure every routinely the way she had to. She looked after her plant really very well, like as if it was its baby, and constantly not missing even a single day of giving the nutrition the plant needed. And the other neighbor was that, okay, in 2 days, one day she would plant, and she was okay. She gave the watering of the plant. She looked after the plant, but not like the way the first one did. The one was overindulgent with the plant. And one day there was a huge storm, and the storm took away a lot of things. Now the next morning, when these two got up and they came to their balcony, The one who was very overprotective over the plant saw that the plant had come out from the soil and, you know, the roots and everything, it was destroyed. And the other lady's plant was there standing. Okay. And she told her that, hey, how is this possible? You know, like I was looking after this plant a lot. And this plant, you used to take care once in 2 days, also used to water them, not water them. How is it this possible? There's a very simple logic to it. And she said that, you know what, when you were taking so much care of that plant, your plant forgot to find support within themselves. My plant, when I didn't give water, the roots started attaching themselves to the soil. They started taking nutrition from the soil. So they started imbibing into the soil. Right? And the other plant said, I don't need to work on myself. My person who's looking after me is watering me daily. So the roots were not imbibed. When you over look after your children, when you don't allow them to be, they forget that there is something within themselves which they have to explore. If you every day are looking at your child after he comes back or she comes back from school to tell them when is the next homework submission, when is the next test, and when their exams are there, I find so many parents, when the child's exams are there, more than the child feeling its exams time, it's the mother who feels exam stress. She will stop all her social obligations. Why? Because my child's exam is there. I can't leave the house. Till when can you do this? If you all don't teach them today, when are they going to learn? Self-learn is the best way to learn. And are we really okay with our children to make mistakes? One of the things that, transits from being a kid to being the child moving towards being a student, is that we do not want them to make mistakes. Why is it not okay for your child to make mistakes? Why is it so much as my responsibility, my guilt if my child fails? Why is it so important? Have you ever asked yourself that? When your child first learns how to walk, how many times your child has fallen? Did you allow him to fall, or every time when he was falling, you had held a carpet below him that Mara bachcha ne zara bhi lagu na jaye, my child should never get hurt? We allowed him to fall, and the more he fell, the more he stood up on himself. You see children, when they fall, they don't cry, they stand up. Because they know that there is no option, they will have to stand up by themselves. But when your child grows up and starts going to school, you don't want your child to fail. So then we are micromanaging our children and their studies. We are micromanaging. Okay, have you done this? Is this done? Is your homework complete? Tomorrow what test you have? When is your next test? Hello, it is his responsibility. It is your role to show him his responsibility. It is your role to understand that, okay, fine, give him the responsibility that, you know what, studying is not giving me any pleasure. You doing well will not give me any pleasure. Yes, you're going to be there to motivate him. You're going to be there to guide him. But you can't be his crutches. And then when it comes the time when he has to walk alone, you see your child can't walk and you feel, what? I did so much for you and you don't even know how to walk. It's okay to not be okay. Please remember this. There is nothing called perfect parenting. There is no perfect parenting. There is no perfect child. There is no perfect individual. We all are a product of our imperfections. Even I am not perfect, neither you all are perfect. So stop running after something called as perfect parenting, because that does not exist. And because we are running after something which does not exist, we don't get anything in our hand, and we constantly make errors. And those errors are depicted on our children. So for me, effective parenting is a balance of our emotions, a balance of warmth, a balance of control, and openness. It's about both the parents getting involved in raising their child, understanding your child, because each child is very unique in its way. Yes? So this is what is effective parenting for me. I would want to leave some space for you all to ask me any questions. If there are any questions, I would be glad to answer them. Yes, I am throwing the space to you all for questions. The more the questions, the more I will be able to give you time. The lesser the questions, we can then, Rashida, end it.
You can unmute yourself if you want to ask something personally.
Wow, so I've done a good job.
Well, all my questions have been answered already.
So there is a question that has come, that how about being openness works? Transparency is very important. When I say transparent, that doesn't mean that I openly share everything with my child. But where there is something where I can involve my child, that openness is very important so that my child learns how to take decisions. Involving your children in your decision making, not at your level, but at his level. Sometimes what happens, that our children often come with questions, and we shoo them away saying, oh, this is not your right time to answer this, or this is not the right question. But always remember that if there is a question, then if you don't answer it, there will be somebody else who'll answer it. That's where the openness comes, that please openly answer that question. It's okay. If your child is demanding something and you cannot afford it, it's okay to tell your child that I can't afford this right now, but we can work out something and let's see how we can do this. That is openness. When I mean openness, I was indicating on this. How to control aggression in kids. Understand the root of that aggression. What is the root? See, aggression in children are at very different stages. At the age of 7, when the child is aggressively behaving or is very aggressive, then there could be some medical history behind it. So, at the age of 7, when there is excessive aggression, there could be an ADHD syndrome. Okay. Could be. I'm not saying it is. The child, the child learns from you. So if you are behaving aggressively, if you are answering aggressively, the child has automatically learned aggression, right? Is the child going through a lot of stress, something which he's not able to explore, or he's not even able to tell you that could also cause. See, aggression is a cause of irritation. Irritation is a cause of not being able to do something, your inability. So try and understand, where is this aggression coming from? The child is not aggressive just like that. He doesn't understand the aggression part of it, that okay, fine, if I do this, it's either a learned behavior or it is an emotion which the child cannot handle. They're not used to listening to no, because you have said a no and then probably turned into a yes, right? And there comes there is that probability that okay, fine, because I've never said a no, now when I say a no, there is a huge problem. If you are saying a no, explain to your child. See, the problem is that we stop explaining things to our children because we feel I don't need to give you an explanation. I don't owe you any explanation. I said no means no, khatam. Havesu discussion. Why another discussion? Why not? If I'm saying a no, I need to explain why am I saying a no. And then you have to also be open to listening to them that, okay, fine, I understand you're saying no, but this is something I need. How can we work it out? And then you will have to explore the options of making it work it out. Yeah. Hope that has answered your question.
Hello, Habiba Bean.
Yes.
Bean, like it's very nice. I heard about what Tame Kidu. It was very nice to it can go. But my child is just like 22 months right now. So when I say no to her, she does not listen. She's like, no, she wants to do it, and then she gets aggressive. She starts throwing away her toys, whatever is in her hand. So how to control that? Like,
Okay, so when you say no, especially with a 22-month, okay, how do you say no is very important. You involve all your 5 senses when you say no with a 22-month. Okay, so that means that you will hold your child's palm like this, okay, tightly, okay, showing affirmation. If you are saying no but you don't mean it, okay, and your body language shows that I don't, okay, I'm just saying no, just like that, the child is picking up your non-verbal cues. Okay, so one is that you tighten the child's hand, not so badly that he gets hurt, but just tighten, make eye to eye contact and say no. Okay, and you will have to do this consistently. If you do it consistently, after, it will not happen in one time. But if this happens repetitively, you do the same thing again and again, she or he will realize that, okay, I'm not going to give in. They're not going to give in, it's a no. So then what will happen, what is the advantage of this type of disciplining, Tasim, is that if you're in public, okay, and at that point of time, you can't shout at your child, but you have just held his hand, no? He will understand, held hand, it's a no, I have to behave myself. It's a silent way of telling your child, you're going out of control, behave yourself. Okay?
okay, thank you, Bean.
Welcome. Yes. Any more? Okay, Rashid, I guess we are...
I think we're done. So thank you so much, Habiba Bain, for taking time to do this for us today. I hope all those who attended are going to be effective parents. I won't say better parents, but more effective parents now, because all of us were good parents. We weren't bad parents, but we'll be more effective at parenting now. Thank you so much once again, audience and Habiba Bain.
Thank you so much, everybody. It was a pleasure interacting with you all. Thank you so much.
I would request Habiba Bin if you could share your contact also with the audience in case they want to get back to you in future.
Sure. I will just be putting up over here.
Yes. At the same time, I will also give a shout out to all my audience. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Giants Welfare Foundation, Branch 1A. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Please connect with us with all our future activities that we keep doing. We will definitely be doing more such things like this and much more. So please stay in touch with us. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Rashida. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great day and have a great weekend.
Bye. Thanks. I'm leaving.
Bye-bye.